All right. Right, Peter. Thank you again for doing this. I'm so happy to have you one more time. So we try to do Instagram Live. We have some technical issues. That's why we're doing this version again. So now I can see your face because before you were the mask, so it was kind of hard to see your.
This is much better, much better. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience without a mask and to tell the story and to try and inspire all these young traders and people in finance to hop on board the Juan train.
All right, all right. So Peter, once again, so you were born in New York, right? So can you start just a little bit about your background? The people that don't know you well, they understand where you're coming from or what you're currently doing.
Absolutely, no problem. So I'm 23 years old. I just look this old. I grew up in New York City, and my parents are European, right? They are survivors of the Holocaust. They came to America 1949 after 4 years in prison there because they were Jews. And but they came to America and found a great life here. They fell in love and they came to the States. My father was a well-known doctor, and my mother was a homemaker and his secretary and wife and life partner. And I grew up on the Upper West Side, New York City. I had an older brother who's unfortunately passed away at a young age a couple of years ago. But I had a great childhood, a great background. My parents taught me about education, about travel, about medicine, about humanity, about loving the experience, the journey. It's not about the destination, it's the journey. They had a beautiful childhood themselves, but obviously what happened during World War II was devastating for them. All their family were killed. So when they met and they came to America after their trials, they really were inspired by the American dream, and they were inspired having really seen the darkness of hell. And unfortunately, many people who experienced that experience came out very angry and dark. And there are two roads when people are confronted by devastation and darkness and evil. And the other path is people who realize how precious life is, and how precious human interaction is, and how precious the journey is, and family and friends. And so they were fortunate to find each other, come here, find a life. And so I was brought up with that incredible joy. You know, there was darkness for sure, but the joy of life, the joy of learning, the joy of humanity. And so I think that really molded me and inspired me from a young age to be a fighter and to be a learner and to be just hungry and thirst for knowledge and people and humanity. And so fast forward, I went to college. I went to business school. I traveled around the world. During my college years, I started a number of businesses. I had a record store in New York City in the 80s. I managed jazz bands through Europe in the early 80s. I came back to New York. I lived in West Africa for a while, learning finance and accounting. I came back to New York in 85. And I got a summer job as a teletypist on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. It was not always going to be my calling, right? I studied agriculture in college. I thought I was going to be a farmer, but I did always have an underlying interest in finance and sort of wheeling and dealing and entrepreneurship. And so when I finally came back to the States in 85, and I was given the opportunity to get a job on the floor of the stock exchange, which was sort of a fun opportunity, but I came in at a base level. It was an internship. A patient of my father's was running a company on the floor called Cowan and Company. They were later taken over by Societe Generale. I thought, okay, it will be an opportunity. Let me check it out. And of course, you know, jobs and careers are sometimes just happen by chance. We never know really where our journey will take us. And we're not sure what we will find, whether we love what we will find to do. And one of my messages always is, if you find something you love to do, you will never work a day in your life, right? So my father was a doctor. That was his calling. You know, he wanted to be a doctor from a young age. He found it, he created it, and he was inspired by it. And he was an amazing humanist doctor, diagnostician. So there was always that my dream to find something that I love to do that would make me want to get up in the morning and involve people, involved adrenaline and energy. You know, we all sort of have this path. We have this journey that we're on. And so, you know, and that's something that I'm inspired to do to help other people are anyway. So when I got down to the floor of the stock exchange, I'm sure as many of your audience know, if they've ever seen a movie, Trading Places or Wall Street or whatever, or they've seen me on TV, or they've watched, you know, the action of the open outcry and the auction market and the screaming and yelling and the faces and all that they've seen, that it's an extraordinary place. It's the only place in the world like it. And for somebody who's sort of in a boisterous, high energy people person like myself, when I arrived there, I found myself, and I found my people, and I found my career.
You have how many recognitions you have? You had the most photographed person in the New York Stock Exchange. You had the Wall Street most photographed broker, most photographed trader on Wall Street. You have several recognitions. How you can handle that?
So, you know, look, for me, as I said, it's something that sort of comes naturally to me. It's a job that I love. You know, I described how I arrived there from 1985. I've been there for 35 years, and it always hasn't been an easy road. And I didn't always have that gnome and that brand and that recognition as you described, but I've always had a place there. I've always been a personality there. And so for me, you know, as the years went by and the business changed, I kind of reinvented myself a few times. And along the way, I became the most photographed broker on the stock exchange. I became known as the Einstein of Wall Street. And I kind of build a brand around it, you know, for lots of different reasons. I love to let people know this is something I love to do. I love to inspire people in finance and in markets and in investing and in education and in day trading. I love to share something I love to do and get behind it to inspire other people to do it. So I have many recognitions. My greatest recognition is just to be is the most recognizable and the most photographed broker on the stock exchange, doing something I love to do every day.
All right. So I have a question. So what is your largest trade so far? Well, because I've seen some speculations, but I'm just gonna get it from you. So what is so far? What's your largest trade? If you can share it, of course.
Yeah. Well, look, you know, for a year, the business has changed a lot, and for many years I traded for different companies, and I've been involved in regular equities. I've been involved in convertible arbitrage. Was a business I did, which is about convertible bonds and notes and common stock and preferred stock. It's a little complicated. Maybe some of your people know it. It used to be a very part of the niche market. But I have to admit, I mean, I'm sure there's a record of it, that my largest trade was a cross of 8 million shares, actually. And I don't remember what the stock was. But you know, if people don't know what a cross is, you know, you have buyers of stock and you have sellers of stock. And back in the old days when we used to trade without a computer, when we did open outcry, screaming and yelling, you would go into a crowd to trade stock. If you were a buyer, you would ask the market maker where the sellers are, and you guys would consummate a trade. Right now, it's being done electronically. Back in the old days, it was an auction market with human beings. You could probably relate it to a farmer's market, where you walk into the guy who sells tomatoes or the guy who sells bread or fish, and you say, you know, I'm a buyer. I want to buy some fish. And the price would be determined by supply and demand, right? So that's how we used to trade. It's still done that way, but it's done electronically. So back in the old days, the ultimate trade for a broker was to be a buyer of a stock and to actually find what was called the other side of the stock, which means if I'm a buyer of 8 million shares, I'm looking for the seller of 8 million shares. And the business is different now. Now the trades are very small and they're all electronic and all that. But in the old days, if I was a big buyer, I could go into the open marketplace and I could buy 10,000 shares, 20,000 at a time and create a large position for my customer. But the ultimate trade was to put on what's called a cross, which was if I had a buyer of 8 million, I found the seller of 8 million, I walked into the crowd and I put the stock together. I put my own buyers and sellers together. So I'm sure that's probably what you're referencing. And it was
Yes.
an exciting experience for me. It gave me a little, it gave me a little credibility because that was it wasn't something I did. It was I represented a customer and the customer was able to get the buyer and the seller, but he entrusted the order to me. It was a huge order, right? And it didn't go smoothly in the beginning, but I should say by the end of the day, everything went okay.
So, so for you, what is more important, the opening price or what the close to the end? How do you, how would you identify that?
So look, every customer has a different strategy that they are representing on in the business. Let's break it down for a minute. So who's investing in the market? There are retail investors, there are institutional investors, there are proprietary traders, and then there are brokerage firms that represent all of these people, right? And then that business was what I used to be involved in. And then, so it really depended on, if someone gave you an order to buy or sell stock, you wanted to be involved on the opening price, you wanted to be involved in the middle of the day, and you wanted to be involved on the closing price. Your customer asked you to please, there's what's called a VWAP, volume weighted average price of a stock. During the day, a stock can open at 100, can go up to 110, can go down to 91, can close at 101, right? There's huge volatility in the market. And me as a buyer or a seller, some people want to be aggressive and they just want to buy it for a reason. And then there's some people who want to get an average price. They don't, in such a crazy volatile market the way we are today, the average price is the hardest thing to do because stocks have movements of 10% sometimes within a day. So that's a strategy that used to be the case. And sometimes it is today. But right now, the stocks, the way I'm trading them, I'm very interested in the opening of stocks. I'm interested in the dislocation of where stocks, so you know that now stocks trade 24 hours a day. The New York Stock Exchange used to be the preeminent market in the world, trading 80% of the world's volume. Well, now, due to deregulation and electronic trading, there are many venues all over the world to trade, and the markets trade 24 hours a day. For me, I'm a trader on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, and even though we only do about 25% of the volume, what happens on the floor of the stock exchange affects the way the stocks are traded throughout the world going forward. The strategy that I'm trading now as a broker, I've had to reinvent myself a few times, is I trade the opening of the market. I trade the IPOs, the initial public offerings, new companies that are coming to market. And then I trade what's called the closing bell. So what that means is I'm interested in what the market does from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. It's a little bit complicated. It may not be something people are understanding. I don't really want to spend a lot of time explaining it, but I'm interested in the opening. I'm interested in what the market does all day long. For me, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't recommend stocks. I execute strategies as per the decision of my customers that I had some involvement in formulating and building a business model.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, every day is a different day. We are seeing in 2020 and 2021 unheard of volatility in the markets. So if I'm a buyer, I'm trying to represent my customer and do the best job I can, right? At the end of the day, I'm hoping that I gave him a price that's lower than where it closed. If I'm a seller, at the end of the day, I'm hoping the stock closes lower than where I sold it and that he got a good execution. It's a very difficult business. It's very complicated. The way the market's been trading over the last couple of years, it's very volatile. It's not for the faint of heart. And so every day is a different day. That's what I find very exciting about it.
So do you still prefer the old days, or you like the electronic trading with these nowadays? What are you?
I'm not a here. I think I may have a pad from the old days that I used to trade with. Hold on.
Yeah, no problem.
So in the old days, here's a buy pad. People can see it.
Wow.
Right? We used to do it on paper. It says buy. You would write in how many shares so I can show you. Let's say I'm on the phone with the customer. He says buy 100,000 IBM at $125. I would write this down and I would go into the crowd and trade. If he decided that he didn't want to buy it anymore and he wanted to cancel it, I would say cancel to buy 100,000 shares of IBM at $128. That's the way we used to do it. That's the way I like to do it. But I cannot fight technology. This game doesn't happen anymore. That's what you see in the movies. Unfortunately, now with technology and with the computers and the handheld computers and with these algorithms and whatnot, it's not over my head because I engage with it on a daily basis, but it's not my choice of trading. I preferred the human interaction. I preferred the auction market. I like to scream and yell, as you can see. So I prefer the old days where you scream, buy, 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 and sell. That was exciting for me. To sit and tap a computer, it's what I have to do because the technology is way bigger than me, Peter Tuchman, but I prefer the old days.
So for instance, how was your experience with Jay Woods, working with him?
So I tell you exactly what my experience with Jay Woods is. Jay Woods, I am a broker trader. I represent hedge funds, institutional and retail investors. I get orders from customers upstairs. I don't make the decisions on the floor. Jay Woods is a market maker. A market maker works for a company that puts together the buyers and sellers. He represents the corporation that he works for. He represents the company that he trades. Jay Woods used to trade Visa, IBM, a number of different stocks, BlackBerry, a lot of different companies, many. He was incredibly good at what he did, but he was a market maker. So he didn't buy and sell for customers. He bought and sold for his firm to create a smooth and active market. So when I had an order to buy 100,000 shares of IBM, I would walk into Jay Woods' panel. Jay Woods traded IBM, and I'd say, Jay Woods, how is IBM? And he'd say, Peter, there are two buyers next to you. They each have 50,000 to buy, and there's two sellers over there with 100,000 to sell. I would say, here, Jay Woods, take my order. I give up Bear Stearns. That's my customer. I have 100,000 IBM to buy. Please take care of me. And Jay Woods would take my order as a market maker. And when I walked away or while I was there, he would put together the buyers. He would say to the buyers, you each want to buy 50. Peter has 100 to buy. We have a total of 200,000 to buy. We have a seller of 100,000 over here. Jay Woods said, I'll sell 100,000 and we can put together 200,000 shares. He would ask us what we thought. We would all say yes. and 200,000 shares would trade. IBM at $125. Jay Woods would circle the number. He would say, Peter, you traded with Merrill Lynch badge 357 at 2:25 in the afternoon. We have a trade. It's consummated, and it was a beautiful thing. Jay Woods was very transparent, very honest, very forthcoming of information, and he was really very good at what he did. And it was always a pleasure to trade with him.
And that's the reason why we're talking today. Thank you to Jay, because he's a good friend. He referring to me, to you, and so glad that I met Ralph Acampora, Jay Woods. We're all friends. This is like a family, as you know, and I hope you someday can visit you in New York and we can take the famous picture with the most famous guy in the New York Stock Exchange. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but for sure next year we'll do it for sure.
Yeah,
And
we'll meet on the floor.
So right now, let me ask you this. Also on the trading floor right now, do you compare the people that are working right now on the trading floor compared to 10, 20 years ago? What's the difference?
There's a big difference. So look, the floor of the stock exchange was opened in 1903. One person, one stock. And as it grew, as companies became public, it grew into the place it is. If you look at the way the room is set up, it's the same as it was in 1903, except now there's electronic equipment and there's 5,000 stocks. Back then, we started with one stock and a few brokers. So as the years went by, there's no training, there's no education, there's no course, there's no degree that you can get called trader or stockbroker, right? You have to kind of learn in the fire. And so historically, the way the companies grew and the way the job description grew, it would usually be by word of mouth. People would say, hey, come on down to Wall Street. We're making a lot of money down here. Call your brother, call your uncle. And a lot of the businesses were family businesses. And they grew the businesses. There was Italians, Irish, and Jews were there. Very few women. Sorry. Very few women. So it was a family business. Your grandfather worked there, your father worked there. And so that's how it kind of grew over the years. It was an incredibly close family, right? It was an incredibly tight group of people. They were very charitable and generous to the community. But at the peak, there were 1,600 brokers and probably another 5,000 support staff. We had clerks, we had reporters, we had supervisors, we had squads. It took a lot of people to run the stock exchange. So as today, as technology came in and we had the financial crisis and there were firms that went out of business and there were a lot of firms that merged, and then we had technology come in. So there was a lot of overlap of amount of people. And the whole basis of the stock exchange and the way it traded became very electronic. So a lot of the support staff just kind of went off and did their own thing. They weren't needed any longer. So slowly, we went from probably 6,000, 7,000 people on the floor to now we're probably about 300 or 400. And during COVID, we're probably about 80 or 90. So the quality of the person on the floor is still the same. It's a very genuine, bright, savvy person, somebody who thinks on their feet. The qualities that make up a broker and a clerk and a support staff are the same they always were. Honesty, transparency, high energy, people who think well on their feet, people who are good with numbers. So while the quality and the personality has not changed at all, the numbers have changed, as in any business. We've seen the consolidation in all businesses due to the high level of technology in the car business, in the printing business, in the media business. It's all changed. So we're no different than anyone else. But I'm happy to say that the quality and the personality of the people in our business are still number one.
That's great. That's great. And I hope you guys continue doing the same, because it's a really difficult job, because it requires a lot of technical things and knowledge and many things that you're not gonna learn anywhere. It's just inside. That's what I.
Correct.
And
But I will say one thing though, that it's unfortunate too that we can't really, that the floor of the stock exchange isn't expanding and we're bringing in a lot of people there because technology has sort of taken over a bit of that. However, what we can teach people as educators and as brokers, right, as motivators of people with my experience of 35 years, is what we've done recently. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it, which is, we've seen a lot of volatility in the last couple of years. We've seen a democratization of the trading world where there's 40 million plus new traders in the market because of Robinhood, because of the pandemic, because of all these trading apps, right? So that the barriers to entry for people who are underserved, underbanked, right, and undereducated have not had an opportunity to be involved in the market. Over the last year, we've seen that change completely in the event with all the apps, the Robinhood and the E-Trade and the TD Ameritrade and whatnot, and the online and the phone trading capabilities and fractional trading. But what we've seen with the volatility and with Wall Street bets and with the Reddit and all these things, you've seen tens of millions of people flock into the market thinking that it's a good gamble, that it's a get rich quick scheme, and whatnot. And the bottom line is it's not any of those things. There have been a number of opportunities with the Wall Street bets guys and GameStop, and I'm sure your audience knows all about it, that if people bought correctly and sold correctly, they probably made some good money. But what the message I need to get through to people is that it's all about education, that this is not gambling this is only gambling if you don't have the education and the fundamentals to know how to trade stock, and educating yourselves about day trading, if that's what some of your audience does, is super important. And me and a gentleman, I'm the host of a new course called the Wall Street Global Trading Academy. I partnered with a man named David Green, who was a trader with me in 1985 when I came in. He went on to spend the last 15 years educating tens of thousands of people on day trading and technical analysis. Technical analysis, for your audience who may not know, is the art of charting using historic data and charts, moving averages, pivot points, relative strength index, which are things that you plug into your graph and can be the last defense against crazy volatile markets. So we offer this course. It's $499. We do offer a 3-part pay period. People can all go online and buy it. It's super exciting. There are videos of me and David explaining the language of the stock market, explaining what technical analysis is, chart setups. We go through it one by one. Then we take the 5 basic technical analysis trades, which are called a base trade, a trend trade, moving average trade, swing trading, and option trading. And we teach you one by one from A to Z, Finance 101, on how you learn technical analysis and how you day trade. It's super exciting, super fun. I hope your audience will check it out. And I think the bottom line is, whether you learn from me or from anyone else, educating yourself on technical analysis is the way to protect yourself against a volatile market.
Can you repeat the website again?
Sure. www.wallstreetglobaltradingacademy.com. Okay, you can look me up on Instagram. It's on my site. You can find it and download it, or you can just go on Google and download the website, www.wallstreetglobaltradingacademy.com. You'll see a video of me and a cartoon. You'll see a fun explanation of the different 7-part. We included cryptocurrency. It's a 7-part course with 21 videos, basic, digestible, accessible, fun, exciting, full of adrenaline. And what we do, how we differentiate ourselves is everybody who buys the course can come to a live Q&A every Thursday where we will teach you and answer questions that you may run into on your way to learning to be a day trader. We will also mentor you going forward so that we are there to teach you, to hold your hand, to bring you basically to the point where you can hit that button and buy and sell stock correctly.
So they can talk to you on that live call, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Great. I'll check it out too. As you know, I'm studying for the CMT. I already passed the level 1, so I'm working on the level 2, and it's a really difficult test.
The
But
test, all of the tests to become a broker, to be a compliance officer, to become a registered rep, they're really hard tests. But the bottom line is you really need them. This is not, you don't, if you were to want to be a pilot, you wouldn't just read a book about flying and then just go to the airport and rent a plane and hop in the cockpit and fly it. You need to know what you're doing. You need to have a lot of demo trading and demo flying. Then you need to fly with a co-pilot, right? And then after hours and hours and hours, then maybe you may fly from New York to New Jersey. But the bottom line is you're going to run into turbulence. And if you do, you need to know the basics and fundamentals on what to do. So the education's important. I wish you best of luck.
thank you, thank you. And how's Peter? How's your Spanish? Tell.
Well, you know what? I learned Spanish in high school, and I can understand Spanish quite well.
Right. Can you say
Yo
something in
habla
español?
español. Yo comprendo español. My wife is actually learning Spanish online. Sometimes we speak it in the house, but I can understand it. I can get around if I needed to. When I was 11 years old, I lived in Guatemala for 4 months, and we learned Spanish. I learned it in high school. I'm pretty good with languages. My parents were quite adept linguists, so it's in my blood, but I can always learn more.
All right. So you have a friend here. When you want to talk in español, I'm always available. If you
Muchas
can,
gracias.
you on your story. Um, I probably um I came to this country 10 years ago. And when I see the story of you and your parents, that's like in my country, as you know, is not really a good place to stay right now because of the economic issues.
Right.
And see your story and see how you've been growing and how your parents taught you many things. That's how I visualize myself and try to teach that to my future generations too. So happy to talk to you today, and hopefully I can follow your path, or because you never know, and we see what happened. And one of my um I'm creating my own little hedge fund right now, but hopefully in the future, when I get my CMT and all these certifications, and probably we'll see where I'm going with this.
I wish you the best of luck. It's good to be finding something you love to do. And it's also good to create, motivate, and inspire other people to find what they love to do. And also, you talk about the American dream that the country you came from is going through some things, and people out there should never give up, right? It's not a matter of how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up and keep moving. So never give up, search for something you love to do, and you'll never work a day in your life.
That's a good thing, and I learned it from you, also from Jay Woods, Ralph Acampora was my one of my mentors. Ralph is I had the opportunity to talk to Ralph in a monthly basis, and I so honored to every time you talk to me, like, okay, all this experience. And when he used to live in New York, or now he's in Minnesota, since I think he's been here for 10 years. And so happy to talk to you today. So any final thoughts for all the audience in Espanol, English? You
Myself in Spanish, but I just want, look, I am hoping that you reach an audience of people who are interested in finance. I think it's really important for them to follow me, check out what's going on. I'm a fun, fairly visual guy. I'm on a lot of social media, on Twitter, Einstein of Wall Street, and Instagram, Einstein of Wall Street. And I try and share my experience of what I'm doing down there. I try and make it exciting. Finance is not just about being a trader or being a person with an MBA. There's so many things that you can get excited about within the finance world and the stock market. Each one of these companies that we trade on the floor are things that all of your audience who are consumers use on a daily basis, whether it's a Nike or an Apple or an IBM or a Disney or Snapchat or Grubhub or Airbnb or whatever it is. These are things that are companies that we are very involved in on a daily basis. Twitter, right? People should not feel intimidated by the stock exchange or by finance or by the stock market and by trading. They should avail themselves of all the knowledge they can, find something in these companies that excites them. Maybe they're going to get into branding and marketing or advertising or finance or accounting. There's so much to get excited about. So check out the stock market. There's a lot of great financial TV out there, whether it's on CNBC or CNN or whatnot. A lot of smart people. There's Josh Brown of Ritz-Holt Capital. There are a lot of people on social media talking about markets these days. Cryptocurrency is exciting and whatnot. My suggestion is not to follow the, hope is not a strategy, and following the mob is not a strategy to trading. Go out there and get some education about trading, learn technical analysis, whether it's from me and David or somebody else, and just find something that that gets you excited to get up in the morning and find a good career, enjoy yourself.
Well, thank you, Peter. Thank you. Do you appreciate it? And hope you have a great day. Say hi to all your family. You have 2 kids, right?
I have 2 kids and a beautiful wife.
All right. Say if she wants to talk to me in Espanol, more than welcome to help.
She's okay. She got her vaccine this morning, so she's not feeling so well.
Oh, I got my vaccine this Sunday. Did you get yours?
I got 1. Did you get 2?
No, I got the first one.
How did you feel afterwards?
Well, my arm is still
Sore.
in pain. So,
yeah, sure.
But I think it's worth it. The
100%. Everybody needs to look. You know that I was very sick with COVID back in March 2020 for 4 months, and I've had a lot of challenges. I suffer from long COVID. So I'm hoping that your audience takes this disease very seriously. We will get to the other side of it. They should wear a mask and social distance, get a vaccine when they can, and still practice all the things that the science tells us. And then wake up in the morning and take a day trading course, Wall Street Global Trading Academy, and have some fun.
Yes. So I'm going to be editing all this, send it to my producers, and hopefully in a few days it's going to be available, and I will share it with you.
It's a deal. I'll send you the link to the course. There's some fun things. Maybe you'll put it on the course.
I can put it, yes, correct. So you order video that I put from last 2 weeks ago, it hit 10,000 views, and it was just the premiere. So hopefully with this one, we're going to reach more audience for sure.
Fantastic. All right. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
Take care. Talk to you. Bye.